Hello and welcome to this session on Introduction to Ansible. So today we'll be talking about that. Before that, I would like to introduce what we do. So we are B Cloud Ready based in Toronto, and we deliver a lot of training, consulting, and AI solutions. Lately, we have been doing a lot of boot camps, and of course, because of this COVID-19, now all boot camps have been converted into online delivery. So quick introduction is a Toronto-based startup started in 2015. We do AI and cloud-based products. We also focus on consulting services and as well as training and placement. So quick introduction about me. So I am the chief data architect here, and I have over 15 years of software development experience. And I have been doing cloud architecting, cloud migration, data engineering, and mentoring and training for almost 5 years now. And you can check on my LinkedIn profile. And I've worked with some of the Canadian companies as listed here. So today's agenda, why Ansible, the use cases of Ansible, architecture of Ansible, and configuration management with Ansible. And at the end, we will do a little bit demo how we can quickly create infrastructure on AWS using Ansible. So before I get into Ansible, this is the quick peek of how many companies are using Ansible. So you can see pretty much anybody and everybody is using Ansible. Anybody who has a infrastructure, network infrastructure, Linux infrastructure, or cloud-based infrastructure, they are using Ansible to automate their infrastructure automation. So what is Ansible? So Ansible is an open source configuration management tool. It is very similar to Chef, Puppet, and Salt. And of course, it is a different from them. It uses SSH to connect to server and run configuration tasks. Ansible let you control and configure node from a single machine. What does it mean by single machine? See, when you have one machine, two machine, maybe number of machine, it is easy to maintain. You can log into those boxes and troubleshoot something, or maybe if you want to install something. That is a little bit easier when you have small number of machine. With a modern infrastructure where we are having in a cloud-based environment or even without cloud-based environment, at least on a private setup also, you have hundreds of virtual machines right now running. And with containerization, it's getting even more complex. So in that kind of scenario, it is humanly impossible for someone to log into every box and do something, any kind of task. So in that kind of scenario, you are looking for a centralized server from where you can manage everything. If I want to give you a kind of perspective, it is very similar to, you can say, you are working in any office or university you have worked, you have a Windows machine, right? And on those Windows machine, they are all controlled by a AD controller, which is a Windows admin. They are sitting somewhere. So usually one or two Windows server, they control really large form of Windows client machine. It could be laptop, office laptop, university laptop, anything. So Windows that has these kind of capability, but when it comes to Linux, there is not really one thing that does it. So there are a lot of applications around that, CF Engine, Puppet, Chef. So all these applications are trying to solve the problem like how we can maintain large number of Linux instances from a single instance remotely. That is where Ansible come into picture. What makes it different Ansible from other, that it is largely based on SSH infrastructure. So for example, if you are dealing with Puppet or Chef, they usually have a client on their side, on the client machine, and they install the client, and basically client keep on periodically checking with the server and syncing this thing. It doesn't mean that one is good and one is bad. It is just that how there are different approaches are there. I've written a blog also about it, like Ansible or Puppet, which one should you pick? I'll send you the link at the end of it. You can take a look into it. So this project was founded in 2013 and eventually bought by Red Hat in 2015. And now because Red Hat is bought by IBM, so it is an IBM product now. Why Ansible? As I always said, it is a no agent. So you do not need to install an agent on the node box. You can basically, as long as you have a SSH client and you have dropped your keys, or if you know the password, you can access those nodes and you can do pretty much everything. Idempotent, this is a very, sometimes I find it difficult to pronounce, but this mean that it makes sure that if you have executed one instruction, next time if you execute the same instruction using Ansible, it doesn't execute it. That is a very powerful feature because imagine if you have hundreds of server and if you want to install a particular package, say, for example, Vim, and if you have already installed Vim, if you want to, if you are just running the same script again, imagine it will try to install so many Vims and it can have a lot of inefficiency. So this is a very beauty of this tool that you can have this thing that once it is installed Vim, it will not try to install it again. Declarative non-procedural. So it is a very declarative language. It means you define, you declare objects and you have actions about that. And learning curve is the key. This is why everybody loves Ansible, because most people who are coming from operation background, like IT background or non-technical, non-developer background, for them, learning a new programming language is not easy. It is a challenging task. If you are not a software developer or you haven't gone through some kind of that painful learning experience of learning a new programming language, and you are later in the career, maybe 5-10 years from now, you don't have enough motivation or energy to actually learn a new programming language. It's hard also. So this is why Ansible is very popular, because the learning curve is very, I mean, very smooth learning curve. You don't need to be programming language. You don't need to know anything. You can start Ansible right away. So that is why it become very popular among IT professionals, specifically operation people who want to move to DevOps career, so that they don't have programming experience, but they can use Ansible and quickly learn it. On the other side, you have your Puppet and Chef. On those are, you have a little bit steep learning curve, because you have to understand a little bit about the way they do class design and inheritance. So it is a little bit complex, I will say. So if you are starting off and you want to get into DevOps field as soon as possible, Ansible is the answer. Ansible use cases: provisioning, configuration management, app deployment, continuous delivery, security, compliance, and orchestration. Pretty much anything, whatever defines the DevOps principle, you can achieve using Ansible. Provisioning, we will do today. Provisioning means creating any infrastructure. It could be a network infrastructure. It could be a virtual machine, very simple. It could be creating database. Configuration management, keeping your system on a particular state. For example, if you want to periodically check if my packages are updated. So these things you can run repetitive tasks, you can do using Ansible. If you want to run some kind of script, if you want to make sure certain configuration files remain the way they are supposed to be, so that by mistake if someone actually log into the box and modified some configuration file and they forgot to undo the changes, so you can have Ansible to deploy the changes as you want. So sometimes this is also called as a many terms infrastructure as code. So using various methods and capabilities of Ansible, you can achieve almost true infrastructure as code. Of course, I'm not comparing it with Terraform, which is another infrastructure as code, which is mostly designed towards a real infrastructure rather than configuration management. Often the case people use Terraform along with Ansible to achieve complete infrastructure as code. That is a very common use case used across the industry. And as I mentioned, you can do a deployment of apps. You have Kubernetes app or a Docker-based app. You can do that. Continuous delivery using Jenkins. You can do that. Security, compliance, and orchestration. So pretty much all pillars of DevOps you can achieve using Ansible. Ansible architecture, it is pretty straightforward. You have here, like typically you have an inventory, API, modules, plugin, and then you have users and Ansible playbook. This is how you basically control everything. So key part of the Ansible is inventory. So what is inventory? Inventory is your basic, it's a kind of a database, I will say, simple file-based database where you keep catalog of all the IP addresses or infrastructure that you have, that you want Ansible to manage. And usually, for example, if you're managing 20 virtual machines or something like that, so you have an inventory file with information about those virtual machines. When I say information, what it needs is that basic information like host name, maybe IP address, what username you want to connect, which private key you want to connect. So these kind of information, so that it helps Ansible to remotely do SSH and connect to it. So every host is assigned a group, and then basically they are grouped into, you can create a group like DB server, web server, you name it. And the format of is either YAML file or INI file format. What is Playbook? Playbook is an Ansible configuration deployment orchestration language. It is simply a YAML file. I will show you an example of that. So Playbook is a set of serialized instructions that you want to perform on a particular box. If you, I see some people are saying you guys are IT experienced. So you know in any related setup work, even it is Windows or Linux, as an IT administrator, what you do, you log into the box, you create this file, you create that file, you install this particular thing, you configure that thing. Like you have a series of tasks you do manually. If you have to automate the whole task and put into a file in that, okay, log into this box, do this, do this. If you have these kind of instruction, if you want to create in an Ansible world, it is called Playbook. So Ansible Playbook uses modules which are already pre-existing. You can create your own module as well. So it's a very user-friendly approach of doing anything. Any question? Because this is a very introductory session. Believe me, I mean, nobody can teach you Ansible in 1 hour. It's a vast concept. So I just want to give you a little bit idea. And once we go to the demo session, then we understand something. So for the demo purpose, what I have done here is I have just created a simple playbook here to show you guys. So for example, this is how a typical Ansible playbook looks like. You have, this is called YAML format. The full form is yet another markup language. And I think they change it. They call it yet YAML is not markup language, something like that. They keep changing the acronym, but the original was this one. So for example, this YAML file or Ansible playbook, I'm having some instruction. First thing is the name. Name, it is telling me what is the task name. This is only for debug purpose, for information purpose. Second thing I'm talking about host, on which host it should apply, because this is a provisioning playbook. It is not a configuration playbook. Like configuration management playbook usually has a host name where you want to deploy it. But right now, I want to connect to Amazon EC2, yeah, Amazon server and create EC2 instance. So I can give a local host. So it will use the local host to connect from there. Third one is the gather facts. Gather fact is a more of a, if you want to collect diagnostic information from the remote node, that is when you use this thing. So I don't want right now. Then I'm giving a task. And if you see, a task is very serialized. The task, again, I give a name. I say what I'm saying is a launch instance. And what module I'm going to use? I'm going to use Ansible's EC2 module. EC2 module is a pre-built module available out of the box from Ansible if you want to do anything on Amazon Web Services. So EC2, what I did, I'm giving some information. Like, I'm not sure if you guys have ever created any box on Amazon. We'll do it. We'll do it manually, create a box, and we'll create using this, and we'll see how quickly and efficiently we can do that. So whenever you create a box in Amazon, you need to have some information like you need to have a key, which is a private key, public key pair. You need to have a security group. You need to tell the which instance type you're using. We will be using T2 Micro because it's a free tier, and you have to use the AMI image, which image you want to do that. And of course, last but not the least, you have to have the which data center you want to use, which is I'm using uh, Virginia data center, which is your US East one. So all these information you need, and that's it. You run the playbook and it creates the infrastructure. So if I want to give a quick perspective, so right now, see if I'm sitting on here, if I want to create a new instance on Amazon, what I have to do the step, I do here, click, I select, and same thing, see, whatever I did here. Let me do cancel and go from the beginning. If I click launch instance, first thing it is asking me, what AMI image I want to use. In this case, I want to use Amazon Linux 2. So see AMI number. This is the AMI. And this I already have given over there. One information, right? Second information is asking me what type of instance I'm looking. Choosing here T2 Micro. Next one, it is basically, this is more detailed information. We are not going into that. I can actually go to the next storage. I don't need any extra storage. I don't need any extra tags. And then it's asking for a security group. So I can select a security group I already have default. If I choose it, review and launch. So in that one, if you see what information I'm giving the AMI number, I'm giving the T2 micro, I'm giving security group, and that's it. The moment I do this, and now at the end, it asks me key pair. So I will say I'm using this key pair. I say I acknowledge it and I click it. So these basically this web interface asked me these question, and based on that question, it created a instance for me. And you can see from the playbook, I gave pretty much the same information. And what I need to do is if I run this playbook right now, it will create the same infrastructure over there. So in order to run any Ansible playbook, you have to of course, you have to have install Ansible. So if you're using Windows box, so I think, I'm not sure if you can install in Windows, but I'm using Mac. Mac, you can actually pip install and install it. Or anywhere, if you have a Python environment, you can have using pip also. But usually what I do is whenever we are dealing these kind of things, I'll basically create a instance on Amazon, and then over there we can install pretty much everything. Or we can have a virtual machine install on your Windows box, a virtual Linux box, and from there you can do that. So right now, because I'm on Mac, so I can directly run Ansible playbook. So this is the command. And then I just give the playbook name. So playbook name is sitting on this folder. I call lab 6 and I call it create.yaml. The moment I do this, now see it's actually executing. See, it's creating an instance. So if you can see it's pretty much printing whatever is on the name section. Name section is here, launch section is here. All these are actually print statement. And now it is actually executing the task. If I want to see what is going on, I can refresh it and I will see it's already creating an instance here. It's a new one. This is created by Ansible. So because I have put here wait equal to true, it means it will wait till the instance is instantiated. So this is why it is doing it. So once it is done, so what it does is see, so what I'm doing and the next playbook, what I did, I register the variable as a EC2, whatever the output I'm getting from the Amazon, and I'm printing it. That's it. So printing, whenever I'm printing, it is pretty much displaying all the information it got from the Boto library, Amazon Python Boto library. So it is giving me, this is the AMI instance, this is the architecture, this is the volume ID, and out of this is giving me all information. And the most important information that I'm looking for is the public IP, public host name. You can see this is 107. And if I go here, see, this one is my 107. This is the public IP. So this is a very simple example, but actually if you want to make it a little bit more complex, you can take an example, this one. In this next example, what I'm doing here is, I think the next one, yeah, you can apply roles. This is a more advanced concept. In that, what you do is basically, once you created the instance, and after creating instance, of course, you want to install something. So I can actually hook it up with a next step, and I can install a bunch of stuff. Like I can install a web server, I can install Java, Jenkins, you name it. So this is basically, you can chain one playbook with another playbook, and eventually you can develop a very complex playbook to deploy a full-blown application. And that is where the power of Ansible is, that because today you are doing something, say you have to deploy a very complex application. You deployed it, you spend maybe 1 month of time to deploy, is fine. And now after 3 months from now, someone asks, hey, can you spin up those infrastructure again for me? But if you didn't have used any kind of automation tool like Ansible, you will spend again 1 month going through the documentation manual thing to get the infrastructure up, which is not a very efficient way for an engineer. So what you do is, first time when you do, you create these kind of playbooks, and when second time you have to do it, you just run the playbook and it creates the infrastructure like a magic. And that is the main power of it. And because it increases the productivity of a developer or a DevOps professional by, I will say, I don't know how many times, like something which will take you say 30 days, and you can basically replicate the same task maybe on 1 hour. So it's like 1,000 times increment of productivity. And that is why DevOps developers or engineers are paid higher than the regular market price. So this is the one thing. So this is about I want to talk about. This is a quick introduction about Ansible and how you can instantiate infrastructure using Ansible in AWS. Any question? Okay, if you have no question, I think what you can do is I'll continue my presentation. What you can do is you can post question on the chat box, and while I go through it. So, so we do provide a training solution, which is basically we call it journey to become DevOps engineer. In that, we exactly touch base upon each and every. And this was a very small demo that I showed you about it, because for example, in our training, we spend almost 2 weeks on training on Ansible. So the 6 weeks program, it focuses on various concepts. First is that basic system engineering, which is a very important thing. You have to know system engineering, otherwise you won't be able to be a successful DevOps engineer. So first I focus on getting system engineering. Second is the Linux fundamental. Just be a core of Linux fundamental, understand what is Linux operating system, how it works, how to troubleshoot some basic problem in Linux, like memory troubleshooting, performance troubleshooting, these things, and networking. Then we talk about cloud basics, some of the cloud basics, how, because I want to focus because right now market is pretty much changing. You need to know multiple clouds. AWS will not cut along. You have to know AWS, Azure, DigitalOcean, GCP. So it touch base upon everything so that at least when you go for an interview or anything like that, you have something to talk about. And then we heavily focus on automation, because all the power of DevOps is that ability to automate, not ability to click on the buttons. So see, clicking on the buttons, anybody can do that. You don't need to be a developer or anything. And why someone will pay a higher salary for clicking on the buttons? Because that anybody can do that. So if you bringing a differentiating value, especially in today's market, which is very competitive, and pretty much we are going through a recession, so you have to stand out on that. So this is the, so we focus on Ansible, Python, Bash, and then we give tips around how to get certification if you want, if you're interested. And last but not the least, from day one, we heavily emphasize on a live project which will be commercially sold into the market. So it gives you a first-hand experience on working on an industry standard product that will can put on the resume to goes long way. Because believe me, these type of course, lecture, theory, what I'm giving, you can get from anywhere in YouTube, right? You go to YouTube, you find millions of free programs. Why someone will even join a course? The key thing what we are talking as, once we go through the topics, when we explain, and same principle you will be applying on that live project. So basically you get a hands-on experience which is unparalleled to any other place. So this is, so each week we have a classroom session. Now it is all online because of COVID-19. You have one-on-one follow-up session early week with me, instructor. And this we do in a multi-factor approach. We work with you as if till the very end. So day one, you will be assigned a project. You'll be assigned your project plan. You will start working on your resume, your communication skill, and interview preparation from day one, because you cannot become an interview in a single day. It is a long process. So we'll be investing time with you on an overall period of time. And internship starts from day one. Course outline, as I said, week one is a DevOps introduction, Linux introduction, then shell scripting. Then we talk about Azure DevOps, and then we talk about Ansible automation, then Kubernetes, Docker, Jenkins build automation. Because right now in the market, if you don't know Kubernetes, it's very hard to survive. So these all skills you need to have along with the internship. Few things about this benefit, why you should join us. First thing is because we are so confident about the training delivery, it comes with a money back guarantee. It means that if you sign up today and if you join the class, say we are starting on 3rd of April. If you don't like the week one class, okay, there is no risk. You can just no question asked, walk away. You can take the whole money back right away. So after you pay, you join, you first week you don't like it, you say, okay, no question asked, all money is refunded. Free resume building, interview help from day one. If you didn't understand anything, feel free to join the program again. It means if you subscribe once, we have this program pretty much every month. or every month or every 2 months based on the cycle. So you can join the next batch and you can keep joining till you get the job. So we are here till the very end, till you don't get the job. So as many time as you want to take the session is all live session, and we are, as long as you can get the job. So you always have access with us. We have a private Facebook group. We can talk about that. So this is a 6-week rigorous training, combination of classroom. Of course, now there is no classroom because of COVID, and assignment, one-to-one session, internship, live project, and job assist and the internship. Job assist, it is what, see, we are in the industry for almost so many years, in Canada, almost 10 years. So with this exclusive, well, I say network of recruiters and hiring manager will try to get you at least to the job interview. And that is where our main power exists, that, okay, we're training you and we will give you the project which is exactly for the market, which market is looking for. It's not some like a regular project that you do in a university or something, which is like a 5-year-old, nobody wants it. And we will not be doing those, what they call these capstone project, which are pretty much actually, I don't think that add a lot of value in terms of industry. Industry value is that if you can finish a project and